performance. Could not get the dub there against the Broncos.
Yeah, he was great for like the first 3 quarters, and then we saw whatever the hell that was, like the backwards pass thing that went for a touchdown. We got Douzable, we've got Bryant McFadden. Preview of tonight's game. There are murmurs in Chicago that if this weren't a short week, Lige, that some changes would have been made potentially to the head coach, potentially in the front office, if they don't win tonight after that disaster last weekend, a 15th straight loss. Do you think we could see some wholesale changes in Chicago?
I think we might see them regardless whether they win or lose. And then if you look at it, you talked about it, Hash. You can't lose 14 straight games in the NFL and your job not be on the hot seat. Let's just break this down. Before we even talk about the offensive side and Justin Fields, Matt Eberflus is a defensive-minded coach. In 2022, the Bears gave up over 27 points per game. That ranked 32nd in the NFL. Not sure if you guys know this. There's only 32 teams in the NFL. This year,
we did know that.
This year it's even worse. They're giving up 34 points per game. So, again, you can say what you want about Justin Fields not developing in the offense, not coming out, hitting on all cylinders. You're a defensive-minded coach. This is your calling card, and your defense has been atrocious. So he's on the hot seat regardless of whether they win or lose. And if they win, will it quell some of the noise? Maybe a little bit. But, again, when that's your calling card and you guys are not playing well on that side of the ball, it doesn't help you keep your job. Now, going to Justin Fields, I think some of the blame is on him, but it's also on Luke Getsy. And we saw this a little bit last year. Through the first 4 weeks of the season, they tried to make him a prototypical, pocket passer. That's not what Justin Fields does. And they did the same thing in the beginning of this year. Last week versus Denver Broncos, I mean, that is a great team to get your offense right against because we saw them give up 70 versus the Miami Dolphins. He was good. He got on the edge. They got him out in the open, throwing the ball on the move. And you know this, B-Mac, when you're a quarterback and you get confidence, you can start making all the throws in the world. I believe he started the game 16 of 16 last week. And then you talked about it, right, Haas? At the end of that game, those 2 boneheaded turnovers, you can just not have those.
Yeah, and that's where I want to start, right there with Justin Fields. Being smart with the football. They had everything right there for the taking until those turnovers happened. You have to take what the defense is giving you. And Bill Cowher used to tell us all the time in Pittsburgh, he used to specifically speak to the offense. I'm okay in punting the football. Sometimes punting the football is a good thing because you don't have to force the issue, because when you force the issue, you allow turnovers. You create turnovers, and sometimes that can be the momentum the opposing teams need to jumpstart a huge win. And that's what we saw with the Denver Broncos. Now let's transition back to the man of the hour, Matt Eberflus. Leger, you talked about the Chicago Bears currently being involved in the middle of a 14-game losing streak. Let me be a little more specific. The last time the Chicago Bears won a ball game, you have to go back to a year ago, 2022, October the 24th, against the New England Patriots. That's almost a year. We're in October right now. They've lost 14 straight ball games. The last time they won was in the month of October in 2022. Now, when you factor in how difficult it is to win in the National Football League, it's very, very difficult. But when you talk about having talent, it's not like the cupboard is bare there in Chicago. They have talent. They've added pieces to the puzzle. They spent a lot of money, and they're still losing ball games. And then also, too, the last thing I'll say, Matt Eberflus, his seat needs to be extremely hot for not kicking the field goal last week. Because if he kicked the field goal, I'm not necessarily saying they win the ball game, but he puts more pressure on the Broncos to score, to kick a field goal, to at least tie the ball game. Deciding to go for it, and he said, I thought we had the best play dialed up for that ball game. I'll say this time and time again. Dick LeBeau told me in practice when I blew a coverage, he said, B-Mac, I thought will get me and you fired. You better know, because we're in a no league. You don't go out there and saying, well, I thought it would work. I think it would work. No, you better know. And clearly not knowing for sure caused them a huge, huge loss. And that's why we're currently talking about him extremely being on the hot seat.
And guys, despite that disastrous performance from the Bears, Justin Fields, we saw him returning to Justin Fields-like behavior there. Yeah. Over 300 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. I know B-Mac had mentioned taking care of the football, but Lige, in your opinion, how can Justin Fields build upon that against the Commanders?
I mean, playing the Denver Broncos defense will always help you look good, but also if you look at the Commanders defense, they're giving it up too, guys. They're giving up 30 points per game. So if you're Justin Fields, you got to do what you did last week, right? Luke Luke Getsy, help this kid out. Get him on the edge. Now, the one play where he did fumble that ball, you were talking about it, B-Mac, that was a bootleg. You have to understand in that play, sometimes the defense just wins the rep, right? Just go down with a sack. Don't try to throw the ball when somebody's hitting you and then you cause a fumble. But Luke Getsy did a really good job getting him on the edge, and then there was some busted coverage. You see it right here. Cole Kmet is wide open. You see the Denver Bronco players talking to each other, miscommunication, but this is what we saw. Him on the edge, and then right here, I think he's about to go out of bounds, and he just flips it to Cole Kmet. So continue to get him on the edge. He only had 4 rushes last week. I think they need to up that number to 8 rushes, 8 quarterback design runs, because when he gets comfortable running the ball, he gets more comfortable throwing it down the field. Again, when you get him some easy completions, then he feels like he can make completions from in the pocket and lean on DJ Moore. There was a reason they traded a first-round pick for him. Continue to lean on your number 1 receiver.
And for me, I'm okay seeing and witnessing backyard football with Justin Fields in tonight's game. Leger, you talked about getting him on the edge, getting him in space. I think that's where he's at his best, and clearly he seems to be more comfortable when he gets those opportunities. So I understand you want to dial up plays and you want to have rhythm-like plays, but no, allow him to go ahead and make things happen. Improvise. You know how you used to play when you was a kid in the yard and you draw up plays in the yard and say, hey, you run here and just run around, and when you open, I'll throw you the football. I'm okay in seeing that, because at this point, they have nothing else to do. Everything else they've tried is failed. So right now, you want to run around and buy time for your wide receivers to get open. Justin Fields do so, because everything else you guys have been doing, it has not been working.
All right, gentlemen, and that brings us to Easy Choice presented by Geico. When it comes to an X factor for this matchup, B-Mac, we'll start with you. What are you keeping your eye on?
I'm keeping my eye on the Commanders starting quarterback, Sam Howell. He is my X factor, and here's why. When you factor in how bad the Chicago Bears defense has been in four ball games, it puts a lot of pressure to continue to make the Chicago Bears defense look bad. Look at these numbers, right? The 4 quarterbacks the Chicago Bears have faced: Jordan Love, 15 of 27, 245, 3 touchdowns. Baker Mayfield, 26 of 34, 317, 1 touchdown. Pat Mahomes, 24 of 33, 272, 3 touchdowns. Russell Curly Harold Wilson, 21 of 28, 223, 3 touchdowns. In 4 ball games, they have allowed 10 passing touchdowns combined from quarterbacks they face. So Sam Howell, this is a get-right opportunity for you. You know, usually when you play high school football, homecoming is an opportunity for you to showcase who you are as a team, as an individual, because you're playing against a team that probably is not good. This is like a homecoming opportunity for Sam Howell, based on the numbers the Chicago Bears have given up to opposing quarterbacks. So he is my X factor. For him, it's imperative for him to continue to do the same things these opposing quarterbacks have done against the Chicago Bears, and that brought them wins for their respectable organizations. So that's the X factor for me. He is the X factor for me, Mr. Sam Howell. I'm looking for anywhere between 3 passing touchdowns and at least 230 yards passing.
B-Mac, I like that pick. I really love how Sam Howell played last week versus the Philadelphia Eagles. After throwing 4 interceptions versus the Buffalo Bills last week, he was cool, calm, collective in the pocket. And when they needed him the biggest parts of the game, right, 3rd and 17, threw a 15-yard pass down the middle to get it to 4th and 2, and then used his mobility to throw it to Jahan Dotson for a first down, then found Jahan Dotson with no time left for a touchdown to tie that game up and send it into overtime. I'm going to go his teammate in the backfield, and it's not Brian Robinson. I'm going Antonio Gibson. You talked about how bad this Bears defense is, right? They are extremely bad at covering backs out of the backfield. Just look at week 1 versus Aaron Jones. Took 150+ to the house on an angle route out of the backfield. We saw Jerick McKinnon get 2 receiving touchdowns versus them just a few weeks ago. Jaleel McLaughlin had a field day with his team catching the ball out of the backfield on screens. I believe Antonio Gibson will get a few screens and have a pretty big day for the Commander. He is my X factor for the Commanders versus Bears game tonight.
All right, B-Mac, Lige previewing Thursday Night Football. Things kick off at 8:15 Eastern from FedEx Field. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it. And, of course, you can hear more B-Mac alongside Pat P on their podcast, All Things Covered. In the latest episode, they're talking about the Steelers' tough loss to Houston. You can download and listen wherever you get your pods, or you can scan that QR code on your screen. Check out the fellas there on Sportsline and Katie Mox. EK, Emery, always giving you your best bets. Make sure you check in Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern right here on CBS Sports HQ.